Hi there, I'm Michael Williamson.
And I'm Matt Luke.
And we have a special guest today, as you can see, the owner and CEO, big shot president of Complete Media. We're here at the greatest little ad agency on the prairie, as our friend Dan Ferris is kind of saying. And today Matt's going to sit in because we want to talk a little bit more about strategic planning. And Matt, I know that you're a big believer in crafting and developing a good strategic plan for every one of our clients. But let's talk a little bit about how when you develop that you need to focus on accountability and good analytical research, right. And then talk a little bit about the things that don't fit into that analysis. Then what do you propose that we do when it comes to those marketing efforts that you can't really track?
Well, investing into marketing is sort of like investing into your retirement. If you had a financial advisor and you weren't getting a return on your investment, or you weren't even getting a report, you probably wouldn't continue that, and you probably fire your financial advisor. So marketing should be somewhat similar, if not even more detailed than that. If you don't know what you're getting for a return, then you probably just shouldn't do it at all.
That's a good analysis, and now I feel bad because I haven't heard from my financial planner in a long time, but I'm going to have to make that phone call when we get done here. But you're absolutely right, and we find time and time again so many people that come in and sit down and have the conversation with us that most of them have at some point in time or are currently doing marketing and spending considerable amounts of money in there, and then when you ask them the question about how's that working for you, what kind of a return are you getting on that investment, you get that deer in the headlights kind of look. What are you talking about? I mean, sometimes they say, well, business is good. Well, that's great, but business could be good for a myriad of reasons. It doesn't mean that they're doing effective marketing and advertising. And we challenge them to say, wouldn't it be nice if you knew, yes or no,
exactly,
if the money that you're spending in advertising and marketing is actually working for you, at the very least allowing you to break even.
Right. And if holistically it's working, it'd even be better to know which strategies are working well and which strategies aren't working as well, so you can invest more time, effort, and money into the strategies that are outperforming the other strategies.
Well, certainly. I mean, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to have a cadre of marketing efforts, and some of them are working well, and continue the ones that don't work well.
Right.
Now, the caveat being, and we have this conversation, we understand that there are marketing opportunities that people are approached by that they don't expect to have a return on their investment, but it's good. Community stewardship, it's good support, whether it's a charity effort, whether it's, advertising in the school's football program, it's reasonable to assume you're not going to generate any business off that, but we certainly don't dismiss those.
Name tag, shirts.
Name tag, my name is Complete Media. Anyway, those are things that are necessary in the grand scheme of marketing. Right. And so we're talking about those significant marketing expenses, typically in traditional marketing, say television, radio, print, billboards. Those are the things that are top of mind awareness for me, that pretty much every business owner goes, that's marketing. And I need to buy some radio. I need to spend some money on TV because business is slow, or I'd like to increase my business in this particular demographic. So they get approached by a salesperson and they go ahead and do that. And whether it's a month or whether it's a year, at the end of the day, if you can't prove that your dollars spent are bringing business in the door, why would you continue that?
And that's why when we always work with the client, we like to put those tracking measures in place so that when we understand net profit, conversion rates, closing ratios, and at the end of the day understand the value of a lead or the value of a new client, when we have those tracking measures in place, we can look at each strategy and make a good decision as to whether that marketing investment is producing a positive return.
Right. And just for the record, I think we've used "at the end of the day" 4 times. I'm going to continue the tally, so at the end of this podcast, we'll be able to see how many times we use that phrase, because it's one of our favorite. So once again, we sit down with our clients and put in place, like Matt was saying, mechanisms for tracking. And you know, it's not rocket science. This isn't something we invented. It's been around for a long time. Unique tracking numbers. We tell people, if you're doing something in those traditional marketing areas, go ahead, we'll help you out. Insert a tracking number. And, you know, what's the alternative? And I had this conversation all the time. You know, how do I know if that's working? Well, if you're not going to do a tracking number, there's a cost involved with that, obviously. You can't pick a tracking number off the tree and plug it into an ad. People say, well, you can ask. You can ask people, every lead that you get, every phone call that you get, everybody that walks in the door, every email that you get, you have to follow up with, how did you hear about us?
And while that's not ideal, it's certainly better than not.
It's certainly better, but really though, it's fair to assume that not everybody's going to see your ad and go, I got a call right now.
Right.
And then they get you on the phone and they go, I just saw your ad.
Right.
The reality is that they see your ad, and if it's effective, they'll remember that they saw your message. They'll make a note that whatever they'll do to remind themselves to reach out to you. And it could be a week later, it could be a month later. And really, if they're considering you amongst many of yourself and competitors, how did you hear about us? You know what? More often than not, people are going to say, "Well, I saw your ad."
Right.
And you may not even have an ad out there, but they don't. That's not why they're calling. They don't want to be. They don't want to be quizzed. They just want to try and do some research, do some business with you. So it's not the most effective thing. We have some clients that do a really good job. Every incoming lead, they do ask the question. But let's take that with a grain of salt and realize that it's not scientific. And we like to put things in that are documentable, are reliable, and say, you know, we see how many phone calls come in because this is the only place that we put the phone number.
Right. So it could be the number of phone calls that come in, the number of emails, which we call inbound, a returned offer, a returned coupon or promotion. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, it could be the number of prospect meetings you set up as well too. Are you getting to shake hands with decision makers? Are you lining up more meetings than you used to? And that's a way to track whether you're getting a return on that investment as well.
Certainly.
At the end of the day.
And new shag carpet in the front lobby at the end of the day. That's
two.
One, two. How many footprints are left in the shag carpet? Funny story, we were out of town this past weekend, and my wife always likes to vacuum before we leave. And I go, honey, it's not dirty, and we're coming home. She goes, do you ever think of this? If you see footprints in your shag carpet when you come home, you know somebody was in your house while you're gone. I thought that was pretty brilliant, and I thought that relates to what businesses could do. You can see how much foot traffic you get if you keep your carpet clean, and it makes a good impression, both literally and figuratively.
Love it.
So I think that's all we've got to say on this matter, and we appreciate
I do have one additional comment.
See, the boss. Okay.
So we talked about the tracking and making sure that that your marketing plan has those mechanisms in place. The most important part for me then next is that when you feel comfortable and you feel good about tracking that, is that the additional strategies that you get approached with then start to move on to the back burner.
That's why I wanted to quit this, because this Matt and I, this has been a hard pill for me to swallow, but it does make sense. It's difficult. It's challenging for people to get their brain wrapped around this notion.
Right. So you get approached by a media rep, you have an opportunity for investment. If you can look at that analytically over the last period of time that you ran that, or if you tried it and you have some results, the next time you have that decision come up, you can decide whether you felt the return was worth your investment or whether it's better to pass on that opportunity.
And if it didn't bear fruit, then it's time to cut down the tree, is basically the metaphor we're going for here. And that's tough for people. But again, I always try and balance that with, you do uncover instances where people say, I've done this all my life in business. This is what I've always bought this ad, or I've always supported this situation, and we're not here to dismiss that. Right. But please recognize that you're not really going to reap results, and that's okay. And so kind of separate that expenditure from the real expenditures that you're putting forth in order to try and actually achieve
and
results.
I'm a numbers guy. If I was investing that money into my retirement, I'd want to be making sure I get a return. And it's the same thing for a business owner. If you're investing that money into your business, you want to make sure you're getting a return. Again, if it's a donation,
it'd be that investment that, right. When the Boy Scouts come around, you buy that incredibly overpriced popcorn that's only half full in the bag, and you go, you know what, I'm not even getting a good amount of popcorn for my investment, but it's a good cause, and you make those Boy Scouts feel good and get that badge that said they sold you overpriced popcorn. I had 3 of those when I wasn't a Boy Scout, but Matt was, I'm pretty sure. No, he wasn't a Boy Scout.
I can barely build a fire.
Dan was. Dan was a Boy Scout, and he got kicked out. So we know that for sure.
But in a nutshell, it's making sure you can track whether your marketing is providing a return, and then moving yourself towards only focusing on those things that do provide a positive return on that investment.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call wrapping it up with a nice package with a bow on top. 6 was the number of at the end of the day. I'm Michael Williamson.
I'm Matt Luke.
And from Complete Media, thank you for tuning in.